Greetings, greetings, greetings. Once again, this is the Midnight Skeptic, and this broadcast will be broadcast on this coming Sunday, the 4th of August, at the usual time, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, over kpca.fm, which is worldwide, and locally here in Sonoma County on 103.3 FM. And then as soon as I get done with this rant, if my 58 minutes are up, then I will download it to YouTube for the enjoyment of my thousands and thousands of listeners. Okay. The Midnight Skeptic, me, is very optimistic about this coming November election. Go Kamala! Today is Wednesday, July 31st of the year 2024. And I want to thank whoever it was in the network of the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag who are trying to help him get elected. I want to thank them for letting him know that it would be okay to go and have a sit-down conversation with the black journalists of America. And it didn't go well. And a few of his comments, I'll go into those in a little bit more detail later, but is he as clueless as he seems to be? Is he trying to win the election or just piss everybody off? Okay, while you're thinking about that out there, here is my play-in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. One of the comments that the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag let spew out of his mouth at this Black Journalists of America event was that Kamala Harris always identified as Indian American until recently when, this is his words, she turned black and then began identifying as black. What a stupid jerk. And it's not true. She's always been and always identified as biracial, Indian and black. Her dad was from Jamaica. Her mom was from India. Okay, and the goal, as I've said many, many times before on most of my shows, is that my goal, in my own small way, via this show, is to rid this country of all GOP conservative MAGA heads that are just cruel and hateful. They're like the fourth or fifth grade girls in grammar school who are considered the mean girls, who always are making fun of other people, putting other people down, in the misguided notion that it will build them up on the social hierarchy at their grammar school. It's horrible, as is the current iteration of the Republican Party. It's just a horrible group of horrible people. Okay? All right. And it's my goal to help rid this country and make this country a kinder, more accepting, dare I say, more woke country. I don't think woke is a bad thing. And I did a show, about 3 years ago on the origin of the term woke. And I'll do that again in an upcoming show. It doesn't mean now what GOP hateful creeps want it to mean. It meant something entirely different back in the late 30s, where it got its origin. Okay? I am proudly woke, and which means I'm accepting and I'm loving. I don't hate anybody, although it's kind of a gray area when it comes to the GOP MAGA heads. If I can do something to just get rid of them all through this broadcast, then I will have fulfilled my purpose in life. Okay, shout outs. First of all, I always lead off lately with giving a shout out to Project Censored. And the three dudes that are keeping it going and contributing to it and helped get it started, Mickey Huff, who is a history teacher over at Diablo Valley College. I don't think he's a full-time teacher over there. One or two history classes. His main thing is working at this Project Censored. Okay. Nolan Higdon, who is a history professor down at Cal State East Bay. And then Andy Lee Roth at UC Santa Cruz, who is a history professor down there, I believe. Okay. John Crowley here in Petaluma, at the Aquas Cafe in the warehouse area, down on 2nd and H, I believe. He hosts various groups, mostly nonprofit and artistic, poetic writers, and he had two Thursdays ago a dinner for retired educators. I went to it because for about 35 years I was a private tutor here in Petaluma. Now, I could do that in the afternoons, late afternoons, early evenings, because I had another job that provided me with a paycheck and benefits, okay? And occasionally, every 2 or 3 months, he will host a group called Drinks with Shrinks, where psychotherapists come out of the woodwork and, analyze each other, make therapy jokes, I guess. I went to one of them, and I was hoping to see a couple of therapists that I've become acquainted with here in Petaluma, and neither of them showed up. But, oh well, the next one I will attend as well. Okay, but they were a fun group. Okay, and at the Phoenix Theater, Tom Gaffey, who is kind of the godfather to the alternative teens and skateboarders here in Petaluma. They have skateboard ramps down on the main floor of the theater. They took the seats out. And One of the skateboarders who occasionally showed up there was Minna Stess, Minna Stess. She is back in Paris now, skating with the United States skateboarding team. So, cheer her on. And, Rabbi Ted Feldman, who is the retired rabbi at B'nai Israel. I don't know who the current one is, but my late wife was Jewish, and she and I went down to B'nai Israel to take part in a lot of their events down there, and it was a nice gathering, and they had some dinners occasionally, celebrating various Jewish holidays, and I went with her, and there were a number of people that I was acquainted with that showed up for these dinners. I had no idea that they were Jewish. Okay. And Rabbi Ted knows my religious beliefs or lack thereof, and he has called me his favorite pagan, a title that I wear proudly. Okay. And Ralph Scott at Squeaky Cheese Productions, LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. And he is a book, well, let's see. He records books, and he has a stable of thespians that he uses in addition to himself, and publishes, there's another word for them, recorded books that escapes me right now, but okay. He was also sort of the godfather of the Petaluma radio players, and which kind of folded when the COVID shutdown came along. It ruined a lot of things, and this is one of them. And he recently has tried to resurrect the Petaluma radio players who do recreations of radio plays, mostly detective stories and some radio comedies, but it didn't really work out. But I hope he tries again, because I was part of the Petaluma radio players for it was about 3 or 4 years. Okay. And Nariman, he and I used to play basketball together in the early 80s down at Mill Valley Middle School. And he was one of the founders of Xandex, Xandex, up here in Petaluma. They test chips. You know, I'm not technically with it, so I don't really know what they do to test them, but they do. Okay. Tim Conrad, who's in my class up in Sonora, and he ended up living here in Sonoma County, and worked for Sonoma County Child Protective Services, and is a good man, and he became an excellent photographer. Okay. Locally, Kevin and Lori up in Katati, Tom and Nancy Throw here in Petaluma, Kevin and Lori, I said them, Dave and Rosita Takach up in Sacramento, Rich and Kathy in Sebastopol, Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon. Dennis is my high-tech guy that I call whenever I need tech help. Much to his relief, I haven't really needed it lately, but he's the guy to go to if you need computer or any kind of high-tech help. Okay. Yvonne and Rick in San Francisco, Stan and Kathy in Pacifica, Aunt Jackie, and in Samantha, and which is one of her daughters, and um, her other daughter, Samantha and Melanie. Melanie is now living in Austin, Texas. My brother Brandon and his wife Mina and their daughter Andrea, who is my niece. She's a nurse. I talked to Brandon the other day, and he said that she had now been a nurse for, 18 years. Where does the time go? But anyway, I smell retirement coming up. But anyway, she's living in the Santan Valley area with her husband, Tim, who's a retired Marine. Booyah! And their 3 little boys. Okay. And in Patagonia, Arizona, Karina Hilliard, the snake removal technologist. She's an animal control officer. In Arkansas, Shannon Reed, Florida, Nelson and Alice Lydell, Amelia Beamer. Check her out on YouTube. And Locus Magazine. She's their on YouTube rep. She'll tell you what books Locus is reviewing for the month. Locus is a monthly magazine. And the 3 genres are science fiction, horror, and fantasy. Okay. Dr. Dave in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina. He is the world's greatest pulmonary physician, and he's retired now and practicing his art, painting and found objects displays. And I think he's up in Chicago now at the Lost Artists Collective. He's not living up there, but he's up there showing his works. Okay. And further up the coast on Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger. Okay, back on the West Coast, the Sonora Crowd, Robert Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, and their 2 children, Brad and Martha. Brad is the organizer and head of the Tuolumne County Historical Society, and go visit them. They're in downtown Sonora, and he catalogs all of this stuff that's donated to the Historical Museum by older people that are selling their, turn-of-the-century houses, or their parents' turn-of-the-century houses. And Darrell Larson, Sonora High's bronc rider, and he has the broken bones to show for it. Judy May, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle, and I think she may be back in Manhattan now. She splits her time between Manhattan and Sonora. It's an interesting combination of places to stay, but she owns a condominium or an apartment building that is rent controlled back in Manhattan, and by law she has to live there in it for 6 months. Okay, so she puts in her time in Manhattan, taking in plays and all the cultural things that go on back in Manhattan, and then comes back to Sonora to her roots. Okay, further up Highway 108, John Gleason and his 2 daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer, and then all the way down in Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete. Okay, good news. Lost my place. Here we go. I'm back on the right page of my notes. Okay. Bad news. The stupid-ass MAGA GOP is whining again. This time they're whining about plastic straws. They, in quotes, want to take them away from us. God-fearing American patriots like Sean Hannity on Fox News, who said, "I love my plastic straws. I don't like those paper straws," but they want to take them away from us. Single-use plastics is a major pollution problem. Only 9% of single-use plastic products ever get recycled, and 0.25% of all plastics that find their way into landfills or the ocean, worst of all, is single-use plastics of the 8 tons per year. Okay? Now, this isn't the first whining things that Sean Hannity and GOP MAGA heads and Fox News has whined about. It kind of goes all the way back to her name will pop into my mind. It's not in my notes. She was the vice president candidate to running against Barack Obama the first time. And one of the things that Republicans were whining about was the newfangled LED light bulbs. And she held up a good old American incandescent light bulb, which have largely been phased out. And she held up one of these twisty light bulbs and was whining about, they're trying to take away our good old-fashioned American incandescent light bulbs. They can't do that to us. Okay, they warned us about eating too much beef, like hamburgers and steaks, and then Fox News whined about that. They're trying to take away our meat. And, okay, and then when it was discovered that gas stoves do, in fact, give off a lot of dangerous chemicals in our house's atmosphere, heavier in the kitchen than elsewhere. And it was mentioned, I think, during the Biden administration that they're going to give tax relief to people that buy electric stoves. That raised the hackles of the Fox News GOP MAGA heads. They aren't going to take away my gas stove over my dead body. Nobody was going to take away the gas stoves. They're just overreacting, which they always do. Well, now it's because of single-use plastics, which include plastic straws. They're coming for our plastic straws. Okay. Have I ranted enough about that? Okay. Oceana, which is a nonprofit group that is trying to clean up the ocean. Good luck with that. I don't know exactly the mechanism by which they try to clean it up. I know they pick plastic up off of beaches with volunteers. And then there's another thing that I want to put you guys onto. It's called the Story of Stuff Project. This is based on a book that came out about 10 years ago by this author who lives over in Berkeley, and I forget what her name is. I should have written it down. But her book is called The Story of Stuff, details the effect on the environment from the first mining or digging up of raw materials to the manufacturing process to the buying of an item by consumers to the disposal of said item. And it's a very interesting book. And then there was it's a relatively short documentary about the story of stuff. It's about 15 to 20 minutes long. I highly recommend that you find it, probably online, and on YouTube maybe, and watch it. It's eye-opening, okay? I wonder what the next thing that Fox News and the GOP MAGA heads are going to start whining about. They're going to take away our, fill in the blank. They've given up, I think, whining about they're coming to take our guns away, because I think they realize that just that will never happen. It's just a lost cause for the liberals. Okay, sip. Okay, bad news. Okay, a Jewish couple from Tennessee were rejected as foster parents because the state-funded placement agency stated that they, quote, only provide adoption services to prospective adoptive families that share our belief system, i.e., Christianity. I imagine there's going to be lawsuits following this decision. Bad news. And the fight against creationism goes on and on. West Virginia recently passed a law encouraging teachers to misrepresent evolution as scientifically controversial. That's the first step, to make people think evolution is controversial. And then the next step is to insert scientifically evidenced creationism. Ooh, okay. It's not controversial. It joins, it being West Virginia, joins Louisiana, Tennessee, and Mississippi, and Alabama requires biology texts to say evolution by natural selection is, again, controversial. In real scientific circles, it's not controversial. There are elements of the theory, and there are discussions among biologists about how much of this, how much of that, how long ago was this, how long ago was that. But the overall um, views are that evolution by natural selection is the mechanism by which life spread out on this planet beginning 4.5 billion years ago. Mm. What a nice planet this would be if we didn't have Christians on it. Mm. Bad news from the fossil fuel industry. Again, oil and gas companies who frack to get every last drop of oil and gas out of their wells need to get rid of their chemical-infused wastewater. In Pennsylvania, and probably other states as well, these companies spread it on roadways and highways. You know, it's not just the oil and gas industries, but essentially all industries generate a certain amount of waste. In the case of fossil fuel industry, it's fracking water. In power companies, it's coal ash for the most part. And that is building up, and it has to be gotten rid of somehow. And by George, the power companies don't want to pay for it. They need to make their profits. Okay, about 80%, 86% of Pennsylvania, smaller oil and gas drillers did not report how they disposed of their waste in 2023. They take advantage of a loophole in state regulations. The state DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, has been ineffective in cracking down on oil and gas companies. Well, they have enough profits to buy Republican legislators and pay a whole coterie of lobbyists to make sure those Republican legislators toe the line and vote against any potential law that would help clean up the environment but cost the oil and gas companies money. Well, they want to make their Christmas bonuses. And they don't want to pay their workers any more than they have to. Okay, another topic entirely. The GOP and manliness. And it's kind of bad news. After the 1960s, the GOP defined itself as a guardian of the stoic manliness, no showing of emotions, deal with pain like a man. Democrats were guys who, in Republican eyes, looked like John Lennon, with ponytails and wire-rimmed glasses and wrinkled linen shirts. To the GOP, Democratic men weren't men. They were boys who tore up their draft cards and cried and shouted and marched in protests and shared their inner feelings. Ooh, all of that icky stuff that real men don't do. Republicans loved John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Robert Mitchum, and of course Ronald Reagan, who joked after he was shot to his wife, "Honey, I forgot to duck." And then joked that the surgeon that was going to remove the bullets, he wanted to make sure that they were a Republican, a good Republican. And of course he was joking, but he took it like a man. Things have sort of flip-flopped in the orange sociopathic bloatbag era. Democratic leaders are the John Wayne-like quiet men now, but strong. The GOP, MAGA heads, and Fox News whiners are full-on hysterics, screaming about voting machines and Hunter Biden and drag queens while trying to impeach Kamala for being female with power or something. They're going to try to impeach her for something. They only a couple of days after Biden was inaugurated into the presidency, they were all ready to impeach him for being Biden. They are getting ready to impeach Kamala for, well, I don't know. They'll come up with something. Sips. Tennessee U.S. Representative Andy Ogles, O-G-L-E-S, filed articles of impeachment against Vice President Kamala Harris for not invoking the 25th Amendment, which would, I think, allow the cabinet, Joe Biden's cabinet, to declare him unfit. I don't know the exact wording of it or what Andy Ogles tried to accomplish with this, but this is what he filed impeachment articles for. This was before Biden stepping down. Speaker Mike, the creepy Christian Johnson, I'm going to be using that epithet quite a lot from now on, the creepy Christian. And he's not the only one. Johnson asked the House of Representatives GOPers to not bring up Kamala's race in criticizing her. One MAGA head called her a DEI VP. And I'm warning you, calling somebody a DEI hire or DEI VP, which they're calling Kamala, that's the new N-word. They want to call her the N-word. And other blacks that got hired at all by corporations as DEI hires. Wait for that avalanche of hateful epithets by the GOP. Good news. Whew, I can finally get to some good news. Peter Strzok. Okay, do you remember him? And this goes back a little ways into the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbags administration. Peter Strzok, capital S-T-R-Z-O-K, and his girlfriend, Lisa Page. He was a former FBI special agent, and she was an FBI lawyer. They were targeted by the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag administration for emailing each other about criticisms of the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag. They also helped in the FBI's investigation of Russia's 2016 election interference. The Justice Department has agreed to, and this is about a week old, the Justice Department has agreed to settle Strzok's suit for $1.2 million. Good for him. Trump's retribution after more than 6 years has only cost the taxpayers of the U.S. a lot of money. Lisa Page's lawsuit is still pending. I wish her luck too. All right. Religious bad news. Okay. There are so many Bibles, so many to choose from. Which was God's word? Which was his word? Which prophet did he speak to directly that got written down and put into book forms? Well, let me read you a few of them. The Catholic Bible contains 73 books. The Protestant Bible contains 66 books. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible contains 81 books. The Greek Orthodox Bible contains 79 books. The Syrianic Bible contains 61 books. That's the shortest one, I guess. Easier reading, I guess. The Coptic Bible contains 75 books. All of them, I assume, are claimed to be inspired by God. Which one do you want to read to be absolved of your sins? Okay. Whew. Onward. Kamala Harris. Okay. Now, this is a gripe that the GOP MAGA heads bring up. Kamala Harris was never President Biden's so-called border czar. Contrary to what the lying GOP MAGA heads say, her focus was on improving conditions in Central American countries, i.e., Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. She was successful in getting more private sector investment there, but things don't change overnight. Poverty, crime, corruption have been going on for a long time. Root causes, quote unquote, need to be dealt with. There's a very small book, and I didn't write this in my notes. I should have. But the title of it is Bananas, and it's about those countries. And the United Fruit Company, how as a large corporation manipulated the U.S. government and the governments down there, mostly dictatorial governments, into ensuring their own profitability. Okay? Look up online or somewhere the little book Bananas, and I forget who wrote it. but it's well worth reading if you want a easy read history of Central America. Okay. Stupid bad news. Okay. J.D. Vance defends his comments on childless cat ladies. He claims it was a sarcastic comment. Well, no. He's a Republican. He wouldn't know sarcasm if it bit him in the ass, let alone make up sarcasm. Okay, claims it was a sarcastic comment. He was trying to walk back his statements. He says that the U.S. culture has become skeptical and hateful toward the idea of having kids. No real evidence for this, of course. They never have evidence. And, of course, Democrats are to blame because they are anti-family. This is what J.D. Vance spewed out of his mouth on a talk show on Fox News. God, I forget her name, who was hosting the show. But anyway, doesn't matter. They're all more or less the same. Okay. Oh boy, let's see. How much time do I have left? Okay, I got to kind of speed up here. Bad news. This is a quote from the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag at the Believers Summit. Believers Summit in West Palm Beach, Florida. The Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag said, and this is a quote, "Christians, get out and vote. In 4 years, you won't have to do it anymore. You won't have to vote again. We'll have it all fixed. So good, you're not going to have to vote." Well, that was not a slip of the tongue. That was not just Trump being Trump, as the GOPers say. He really means this, that he's going to have our voting system fixed for his benefit so that nobody will have to vote anymore. He can just rule. Okay. Bad Venezuelan news. The Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro's own private electoral council, declared him the winner, despite independent exit polling and partial results showing Edmundo Gonzalez with more votes. There is now conflict in Venezuela, some armed, some not. Who decides that the Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag and his MAGAs haven't turned the U.S. into a banana republic? The Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag's idols are Putin, Xi Jinping. Is that the correct? Okay. Orban of Hungary. And then Nicolas Maduro, of course. And having a brain freeze on the North Korean guy, Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-un. Okay. God, brain freezes. I hate them, but I've got to put up with them. All right. Oh, okay. New topic. Bad news. At the opening ceremony of the Olympics Friday, the 26th, leave it to stupid Christians in the U.S. to take offense at an artistic display, claiming that it mocked the Last Supper and other Christian beliefs. The Last Supper was a painting by Da Vinci's depicting a biblical scene of Jesus and his followers right before his alleged crucifixion, which may well be fiction. The crucifixion could be. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it and relayed accurate information to people who could write it down or paint about it. The artistic performance included a few drag queens. The French Bishops' Conference said that the opening ceremony included scenes of mockery and derision of Christianity. The Midnight Skeptic says Christianity deserves to be mocked, but is sure that the mockery wasn't the intent of the artistic director over there in France, whose name is Thomas Joly. He said at a news conference on Saturday that the event was not meant to be subversive or shock or mock people. House Speaker, the creepy Christian, Mike Johnson, said it was shocking and insulting to Christian people. Anne Deschamps, Deschamps, a spokeswoman for the 2024 Olympics, apologized. She didn't need to. These thin-skinned Christians just stuff it, okay? Apologies were not needed. Christians are way too thin-skinned. Ooh, okay. Bad news. Book bans are sprouting in the U.S. In Utah, a law in effect July 1st aims to, quote, identify and remove pornographic or indecent material from school classrooms, libraries that include descriptions of sex or masturbation. Beloved by Toni Morrison has been challenged around the country and in Utah and is considered by intelligent people who read books as a literary masterpiece. Idaho, also on July 1st, requires, quote unquote, obscene materials as defined by an existing 1970 statute to be held in an adults-only section of libraries. All it would take is for one complaint from some MAGA-head citizen for the library to have to relocate the book in question or to an adult section or face a $250 fine. In South Carolina, new rules: books may not include any depiction of sexual conduct, regardless of the grade level they are intended for. Joshua Malkin of South Carolina's ACLU said the new rules could peel away classics like The Bluest Eye, 1984, or Catcher in the Rye. In Tennessee, a new law codifies what books and library materials are suitable for children K through 12. That's seniors in high school. It says material that depicts sexual conduct, sexual excitement, excessive violence cannot be part of a library's collection. All these states are GOP MAGA-controlled states. The Orange Sociopathic Bloatbag's dystopian vision via Project 2025 which I will explain in more detail next week, for the U.S. is truly a nightmare. Vote out all candidates with an R next to their name. Okay, real bad news. The suicide rate for U.S. preteens steadily increased across 15 years. The National Institute of Mental Health study found the increase is disproportionately high among girls 8 to 12 years old. The study, published in the JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, gave no single reason for the problem, but listed social media, technology, availability of guns as causes. Boys' suicides are still greater than girls, but the increase is in girls, 8 to 12. Good news to end the show. This is a Gallup poll. 90% of Americans view birth control as morally acceptable. 68% view having a baby outside of marriage as morally acceptable. 64% view gay or lesbian relationships as okay. 54% view abortion as okay. But changing one's gender is okay for only about 44% and not okay for 51%. We've come a long way despite the MAGA heads and creepy Christians. And that ends another rant from the Midnight Skeptic. Here's my play out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Oh, I wish I had a cat to pet. My Sasha passed on a couple of months ago, and I miss her dearly. But pet your cat if you're lucky enough to have one. And until next week, this is the Midnight Skeptic, and I will go into Project 2025 in detail next week. See you then.